Good evening. The Georgetown School Committee meeting of Thursday, what is today? Thursday, the 10th of March is called to order. This is the special FY12 budget hearing. And at this point, we're really just going to listen to the public. Anybody that wishes to comment on the budget, we'll ask that you come up, state your name for the record, your address, and please direct all your questions to me. If the school committee cannot answer your question, we'll direct your question to Superintendent Jacobs or Mr. Wiggin. So with that, we will open it up. Hi.
Hi. I'm Peggy Hartman.
Hi.
How you doing? I live at 7 Littles Hill. I'm really new at this, and I have so many questions. I don't even know where to begin, but I do know that I'm very upset by this whole, as you all are, I'm sure. Yeah. This $872,000 that we are in need of, is that how? I mean, is it possible we can get those funds from elsewhere? Are we sure we need that amount of money?
That's actually a cut. That is, we need more money than that.
But
the $872,000 is a reduction. We're at 1.5 as far as the deficit goes. They've managed to get it down to the 872.
But could we come up with this 872 through other funds within the system?
The school system?
No, within the town,
No.
within the town budget. So we definitely
we've
are.
We've met with the FinCom. We have met with the Board of Selectmen, or members of the Board of Selectmen, and basically what we've been told is we have this amount of money to give you, and there is no free cash option. So it looks like to get the money, it will be an override.
But what about? Aren't we waiting to hear about tax money? I mean, money that's supposed to be coming from the government, the state of Massachusetts. Aren't we
Chapter
waiting
70
on
money?
We
are waiting on Chapter 70.
We do have a preliminary estimate based on the governor's budget, but the Senate and the
Senate and the
House
haven't.
have to.
And we don't know when we'll be getting that.
The House will probably be out in late April. Because of the difficulty of the budget year, I suspect the Senate will be out in late May, but that still won't be an agreement. They probably will not complete the budget until mid to late June.
And Harry Stanley's aide told us to expect a cut.
Well, we actually just had, we just had at that Saturday forum, both Representative Lyons and Senator Tarr dropped by. Were you
Yes,
there?
I was
Yes,
there.
you were there. So you remember him. Oh, man, I'm so sorry. I thought I turned off. I think what they both said was to expect that it could be worse. It could be a 5 to 10% cut in Chapter 70.
But we have to make our decision before we know about that
that's
funding.
The problem.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
No other questions?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we just add, though, we are going to talk with the FinCom on the 16th, next Wednesday. That's our time to present the school budget to the Finance and Advisory Board. And there could be some conversation at that point where we might get some more direction on what available revenue might be. But based on what Chairman Donahue was right, I sat at the same meeting, and we were sort of told that there weren't any pots of money at the town level that are going to be available probably to help with the budget this year.
Hi all.
Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for
join
coming.
you.
Thanks for coming.
Bonnie Jean Grande, 11 Crescent Drive, Georgetown. Couple of questions. I'm sure everybody in this forum understands the impact that this has, not just on the schools, but on home values, on land, on bringing other people into our district, choicing in students, which brings money in. So there's a lot of, issues with this. What can we do as a community? Are there things like through the chamber, Rotary, philanthropic? Are people reaching out, looking for money through the community to help assist with some of these budget issues?
The school committee is not actively searching for philanthropic other than the grants that we do, and those aren't philanthropic.
Okay.
We have a lot of grants.
Go ahead, Dave.
Like organizations like the GEF, for example.
The GEF and the PTA donate a lot of money.
Right.
The difficulty with the size of our town too is we don't have a lot of businesses, so there's only so much that you can go to the Georgetown Saving Banks.
And UFP technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the other thing too is that the challenges with the budget are, as they were talking about these other groups, they're great at being able to provide enrichment, or like if we need to upgrade our technology, that's something they can raise money for, and that's great, or field trips, or artists in residence, or any of those things. But the problem is, when you're talking about staff salaries, those are recurring expenses. So, if somebody were to say, okay, groups would come together, we're gonna raise $100,000 for you this year. Right. Well, that would really help us this year. But then what happens is, in order to maintain those the next year, then there has to be some source of funding that's dependable and reliable, that's going to be there every year. So, yeah, I mean, we wouldn't even be in this situation if it weren't for the generosity of a lot of groups in town, and a lot of people who help to support those extras for us.
And another question, I know that this is touchy, and I really don't even understand the whole union thing, but there has been talk about what the unions can do, the teachers, what can they do? Are they, from my understanding, is they're still receiving, step increases plus, maybe cost of living and bonuses and things like that, which no bonuses. Okay.
There's no such thing as a bonus.
Well, they said like a 10-year bonus, a longevity payment.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sorry, so a longevity payment out. And, have they looked at those options as well?
We meet with the union president once a month, and we are in discussions with them, and they are open to coming back to the table to discuss health care, because that is a huge impact. We are talking about a potential furlough day. We're talking about a lot of things. I think it's very important, again, for the public to understand that the teacher's contract, this is the third year of a 3-year contract. The first 2 years we were frozen on step and scale and only moved up. The first year they were frozen, the second year they only moved up, I think, half a step.
No, they were frozen in step both years.
Both years, okay, and they're moving up this year. So, in essence, the first 2 years of this contract saved the town over $700,000 from them moving up. The teachers did get an incremental pay increase. I think it went from 2 to 2.5, and this next year it's scheduled to be a 3% increase. But that is really the only raises that they have received.
Is that in addition to their step?
Oh, this year.
This year.
Yeah, so
the third year.
So let's try to, because I think that is a complicated thing.
Right. And I think everyone wants to just understand.
Yeah,
that too.
it is a little hard to understand.
Right.
The way education teachers' pay scales work across the country generally is there's a step increase that it depends on your education and it depends on your experience. So if I could show you a salary schedule, you'd see the scale going across the top and steps going down. So if somebody goes and has a bachelor's degree and gets a master's degree, they move over to a different column, and then they start it, and then the number of each year they move down. When you get to step 11, you're getting, so if there's an increase in, like, let's say a 2% salary increase, you get the 2%, but you don't get anything in between. You don't get a step raise. The incentive behind the step raises is obviously to keep the people who come into your district, at the beginning, and they want to keep them here, right? So they're trying to survive on their salaries based on the fact that, they're trying to be competitive too. So that's how that works. So when the school committee negotiated this last contract, the teachers gave back 2 things. They had a benefit that was called a 403B match. They gave that back. They said, we're not going to have a 403B match for the 3 years of this contract. They also had department heads in 7 or 8 areas, and we kept the 4 core department heads, and then all the other departments now meet differently together and with their principal and other things. But the stipends for the people who had those department head salaries went back into the pool. Okay? So given those 2 things, the first year of the contract, as they said, the teachers did not get their step increase. So a lot of people have a misunderstanding that what was negotiated with the school committee is that's fine for the first 2 years they stayed on their step, but in year 3 they're getting all of that back plus.
Which is
we need to be clear.
Right.
That's not the case. So yes, as I've said publicly, the teachers did not take a 0. They didn't. But what they did take was concessions, and they also took a permanent freeze.
Because like other districts, like Triton did take a 0. to keep
Yes.
some staff on.
Right,
Okay.
but they might, I'd have to research whether they took a 0 in the salary and they still got their steps, or they got nothing.
they got
Because
nothing.
that's likely the case, that the
Okay.
steps
One or the
may,
other.
I don't know.
And
So-
the timing, which you pointed out earlier today, the timing of when we negotiated.
Oh, yeah, we negotiated it before the economy tanked, right?
Right.
I think the other thing to point out with the teacher's contract, and a lot of people don't really like to benchmark, but I think it's really the only fair way to look at the situation. And that is that when we look at the teachers' salaries on the North Shore, our teachers are paid the lowest. They are also $10,000 below the average teacher salary in Massachusetts. In addition to that, all employees in Georgetown pay 60-40. They pay 40% of their
Right.
health insurance benefits. Now, why that's kind of significant is because they're really the only ones.
They are the only ones.
And there are very few places in Massachusetts where that's the condition. So when they're asked to continue to give concessions, they look at those kind of things and
Sure.
say, but it's not like we aren't already making concessions. I think if it was a 70-25, 75-25 or an 80-10, or 80-20 or a 90-10 like it is in a lot of other places, maybe they might be a little more willing to say, yeah, we'll come to the table and we'll work with that. Or if their salaries were in the top half
Yeah.
of even the region, they might be a little bit more inclined to do that. But they're not closing the door, as Ann said. We just had a meeting the other day with a representative from the Board of Selectmen, the union, the school committee, finance advisory board. And really, it was a great exchange of information. I think everybody understands the times. But I think the union also just always likes to tell that story too, that we're not talking about, conditions that are higher and above what others. They do understand the plight of Georgetown, but they also look at the value of houses here, and they do look at the fact that we're 50th in wealth.
Well, we're 87th in the state.
87th in the state in terms of wealthy communities. So sometimes it's just difficult to make those two things to come together, but they're not opposed to continuing to talk about it.
That's important information.
And also
Thank
one
you.
other thing, the 403B, so people understand, it's the public sector version of a 401K.
Okay.
So just so people know what that is.
Okay. Thank you for that question, though, because I know that's out there.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Or comments?
Hi.
Hi.
Joy Bonavita from 7 Bernay
Yep.
Lane, sorry. 2 questions actually, and I'm sorry, a follow-up to yours. You just said we're 87th. 87th out of how many?
351 communities.
Okay, thank you. In regards to the wages, I know that the teachers have absolutely taken a lot of concessions, and I feel like we're always looking for the teachers to do that.
Sure.
However, my question is in regards to the town, have they taken freezes
The town employees took 0 last year.
last year? And are they also eliminating all overtime?
I think
That would be a question for the
that would be
Board
a
of
board of selectmen.
Selectmen.
We don't know that.
Okay.
Do you know? We have a selectman
I
here.
don't know that off the top of my head. No.
But I mean, already the hours have been cut. I mean, if you come down here to get a dog license, the town clerk hours are, nobody's open here on Friday. This whole building is shut down. The town clerk's office is between 10 and 2 some days, 8 and noon. We've cut back as far as the town side goes, and I think that they're expecting another 0 again this year.
Yeah, I know. I think
Based on
there's
the conversations that
negotiations
we
going on,
had.
but I don't know what's been decided.
Okay. And then from last week, we had the opportunity to come to the budget workshop, and
Yes.
there was a lot of things talked about, and one of the things that was talked about was going back to FinCom, I believe, and going with a 9% increase. Is that percentage right? Or no, 5.6.
5.5.
5.5.
Right,
Okay,
yeah, 5.6.
thank you.
Yeah.
Did you have the opportunity to go with them for that, and what was the response?
The FinCom, we meet with them next Wednesday. We
Okay.
present our budget to them.
Okay.
We haven't decided what our budget number is going to be yet. That's, we want to listen to the public right now. We want to listen to you and, take into account the issues that you see as important, and then we will discuss again at our meeting at 7 o'clock what we're going to do, what we think is best, how we move forward, and then come up with a number to go to FinCom with.
Okay.
At that point, I mean, like I said before, we've been in talks with FinCom since September.
Right.
This is not new. The budget disaster that we're in right now is not news. We've been saying this since really last year. And we started the public discussions and public meetings in this room in September.
Right.
You know, so it's not news. This is not new news.
No.
So, you know,